Hey, it is 6:15. I'll call this meeting to order. If everyone will please stand, and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Catherine Solon. Here. Abby Maddock. Here. Dr. Bardo.
Here.
Bobby Braun. Joe Maddock Nelson.
Here.
Kristen Matt Miller.
Here.
J.D. Schrader. Danny Pyatt.
Here. All right, we have a quorum of the board present, so we'll continue with this meeting tonight. Letter D on the agenda is our district mission statement. And since last month, whenever we adopted our strategic plan, Mrs. Oginski and I decided that at each board meeting, we will read our mission, vision, and motto at the board meetings. And tonight, I will read it, and then other nights, it will be a board member that will read our mission, vision, and motto. So the mission of our school district is driven by purpose, guided by integrity, and defined by success. The vision of our school district is build a proud Antigo community. And our motto is, don't talk about it, be about it. So we thank the board for passing that strategic plan through last month, and our staff is carrying out those priorities, and I think it's a great strategic plan. Lots of goals there for us to accomplish. Item number 2, citizens and delegations. Letter A, student representatives report. Our student is absent for tonight, so we will move on to letter B, recognition. Mrs. Oginski.
Nathan, are you ready for the video now, or do you want to do it last? Whenever we're... Okay, I'll go ahead and do the certificates first, then we'll do the video last. We have a special video recognition. So first, this staff member was recommended by Ms. Stutzream. It is my honor to recognize Louisa Berg, our district Spanish translator and a true pillar of our school community. Louisa is much more than a translator. She is the vital bridge that connects our Spanish-speaking families to the heart of our mission. She ensures that language is never a barrier to a student's success or a parent's involvement. Louisa ensures every family member remains informed and empowered. From district-wide announcements to individual student reports, she translates complex information so that our Spanish-speaking families have the same seat at the table as everyone else. Navigating the school system can be daunting. Louisa acts as a personal guide for our families, helping them understand everything from enrollment and grading scales to extracurricular opportunities and specialized services. She maintains an open, constant line of communication. Whether it's a quick phone call to clarify a schedule change or a long meeting to discuss a student's progress, Louisa is the steady, reliable voice our families trust. Louisa's dedication is unmatched. She attends student conferences and school meetings across the district. By providing real-time translation, she ensures that parents can advocate for their children and participate fully in the educational partnership. Louisa, you are an integral part of who we are, and we are better and a more inclusive district because of your tireless dedication. And I would like to also add her very important role of making sure all of our Spanish-speaking families know when we have to cancel school because of a weather alert. Please come forward, Louisa Berg. Thank you. And we'll get a photo op with you, Louisa. Up next, we have a recognition for Miss Bridget Koser. Since starting at the Antigo Middle School on January 5th, our brand new music choir teacher, Ms. Koser, has already made an incredible positive impact on our school community. In just a short time, she has built strong connections with students and created meaningful musical experiences that bring joy to our entire building. This past week, our choir students prepared special Valentine Grand performances featuring shortened versions of You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story or I Can't Help Falling in Love by Elvis Presley. Students selected their song of choice and then traveled to each grade level to surprise teachers with heartfelt performances. They even made a special stop at the main office, spreading smiles and school spirit throughout the building. And I also would like to recognize that her team is here supporting her in this recognition as well. Please come forward, Bridget Koser. And up next, we have another special recognition. On behalf of the athletic department, I would like to recognize and thank Beth Decker for her 33 years of dedicated service to our school district. Beth has been an integral part of our athletic and activities programs, providing outstanding support with registrations, facilities, sports pictures, programs, activity accounts, and countless other responsibilities. Her organization, attention to detail, and willingness to put in long hours ensure our programs run smoothly each day. Beth is dependable, proactive, and always on top of things. Her commitment and behind-the-scenes work have made a lasting impact on our students, staff, and families. We are truly grateful for her dedication and service. Thank you, Beth Decker, for your outstanding years of commitment to our district, and that was also recognized by one of our board members, Ms. Jill Maddock Nelson. So please come forward, Beth.
Thank you.
Okay, Nathan, we're ready for the video. And last but certainly not least, we have a video that we are sharing with everyone. This was presented at the WASBO New Business Manager of the Year and Business Manager of the Year celebration and luncheon in Milwaukee at the state convention. And for those of you that are unaware, Ms. Kelly Fassbender, our Business Services Director, is the new Business Manager of the Year for the state of Wisconsin. Nathan, please share the video for us.
Part of that referendum, about 40 million of it was to build a brand new elementary school, and the rest was to support maintenance throughout the district. That's a very difficult thing to do in your first year, especially with all the turnover they had in central office, and not just administrators, but key people who are in business office roles.
I think that her ability to roll up her sleeves and get to work and be part of our team to make things happen because of that profound belief that Antigo can be the best. And we all strive for that collectively. And having her lead that through our fiscal standpoint is very, very important. So I think Kelly's work has had a profound impact on our community in a positive manner.
I think one of the things that definitely helps her be successful is having both classroom experience as a former teacher and the fiscal know-how how to work through those challenges make for a good, strong business manager and an asset to an administrative team.
She consistently goes above and beyond to support all of our district operations and has exceeded expectations as a new business manager. She's laid a strong foundation for long-term fiscal stewardship, and she exemplifies the spirit of what I feel the George Gray New Business Manager of the Year Award represents.
I deeply appreciate this honor, but I can't accept it solely as an individual achievement. None of our milestones would have been reached without our incredible central office team and school board. To me, this award validates the power of collaboration and serves as a reminder that the countless hours of hard work really do pay off. Ultimately, the reason we are all here is for kids. Knowing that our efforts behind the scenes contribute to success and student outcomes makes every challenge we face completely worth it. I need to start by thanking my family for their endless support and patience. I'm also incredibly grateful for our exceptional superintendent, central office team, and school board. Additionally, I want to thank Wadsville for the vital support they provide statewide, the mentorship of the Wisconsin Valley Regional Group, along with the partners that we have at Baird, EMA, CISA, and Forecast 5. Knowing we have experts like you in our corner makes this job manageable.
Congratulations, Mrs. Fossbender.
It was a wonderful luncheon that we had there in Milwaukee. Bobby and I were blessed to be there and see her get this award. So congratulations. We appreciate all your hard work. Okay, moving on. Letter C, public comment. Do we have anybody to sign? We do not. Okay. Number 3, consent agenda. Letter A, approval of agenda, minutes, approval of closed session minutes, financial reports, overnight school activity trips, district retirement and resignation report. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move the board approve the agenda, the Board of Education meeting minutes from January 19th, 2026, committee meeting minutes from January 12th, 2026, approval of closed session minutes from January 19th, 2026, district retirement and resignation report, financial reports for January and February 2026, consideration of current bills, checks number 9515 through 9578, in the amount of $190,914. ACHs number 252600877 through 252601030, in the amount of $790,359.57, and wire transfers in the amount of $10,361.56, for a total of $991,615.13.
Motion's been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Yes. I would like to speak, or a point of, I don't know if point of clarification is the correct term, but one of the points in the closed session minutes, can I speak to that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I just, for clarity, it's bullet point 6, I think. Bullet point 6 is discussion on the timeline of employee filing grievance with reference made to policy 3340. And I just, because that was, I wanted to ensure that it's clear on what that is referring to, that the closed session was not due to the filing of a grievance, but instead at the recommendation of our legal counsel to provide information to the board regarding the information gathered during the course of the investigation. And also note that that could not occur until after the time frame had passed of an employee to file a grievance.
Correct.
In addition, can I also make one other comment on that?
You may, yes.
Okay. As another clarifying point, the motion that was voted upon within closed session was directly relating to the board's support to the administration and release of a public statement. And noting at that time, there was only one board member voting in the negative, which was J.D. Schrader.
Okay. The record reflect that Jill made comment of the discussion of the grievance as to why that the attorneys met with us is because it was past the grievance, and then also all board members voted in favor in closed session of the statement that was given to the public, except for one board member, and that is Mr. Schrader. Dr. Bardo?
I have to abstain on check number 252601010.
So noted. Abby, I think you had something to say?
I also made it clear that I would sign it after reading it in closed session.
But you did vote in favor of the administrator's
Correct.
decision.
I voted in favor of having a letter drafted.
That was in support of the administrator's decision.
Yes.
Can I make a comment about closed session, specifically in this reference?
Yes.
We've been told time and time again that what occurs in closed session, both policy and legally, cannot be brought to the public. And I am wondering how then board members are able to make public comments, specifically in newspapers and other areas, with direct information of what was or was not provided in closed session. And if we are then able to discuss it, I'm wondering if there's other board members that feel that the information that's been quoted and provided is inaccurate, and if we're allowed to discuss that, since it's now been brought to public light.
What is open for discussion is what you have in front of you from the minutes of the closed session. Other things from closed session is to remain confidential and not to be brought to public light because of the strict nature of generally what is brought up in closed session, which is generally students' disciplines or staff disciplines or administration discipline. And those things being out brought in public would be cause harm to the people that are being talked about in that situation. That's why it's very important that when we do go into closed session, that it meets the statutes, and we always have our legal counsel to approve us as to the reasons why we're going in closed session. And if there are board members that are speaking things that are spoken about in closed session, then there are penalties that can be pursued if those board members, the proof of those board members speaking out in public are brought to the attention of the board. Does that make sense?
It does.
Any other questions or comments of the motion on the floor of the consent agenda?
I just thought the meeting minutes were so detailed, I was surprised we even wrote this, but I don't know, I tried to read the WASB thing. I guess we can do this, I was surprised.
I would echo that. It was a detailed meeting minutes. I think it's appropriate, given the amount of attention, time, and financial impact to taxpayers on this. So it is out of the norm, but I do think it is valid, and we hear routinely about a lack of transparency, and I do think that this provides a lot of transparency. At the end of the day, whether it be a student situation or a personnel issue, that's a closed session situation, and out of respect for those individuals, and as Kristen stated, our own policy and the law, it should stay in closed session, no different than any disciplinary action in any sort of place of employment. I wouldn't expect somebody to come in and be able to receive my personnel file, no different than we would not just hand that off to somebody either. We need to protect and respect that. So yes, it's detailed, and I appreciate, given the amount of attention to this matter, that it certainly shows a level of transparency within the parameters of a closed session.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments of the motion on the floor that has something to do with close or with the consent agenda? Catherine, would you like to read the statement from that was drafted with our attorney?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dear community members, the Unified School District of Antigonia's Board of Education is aware of the recent changes to the district's high school basketball program. Many members of our school community have communicated to the board that they have concerns with how and why the changes were implemented. The board, out of adherence to its policies and its advice from legal counsel, has refrained from inquiring or commenting on this matter while certain internal procedural operations and timelines were still active. The operations and timelines have now passed. The board has now been made aware of the facts and circumstances leading to the changes in the basketball program. With that understanding, the board now finds it appropriate to comment on the concerns and complaints it has received regarding the district administration stemming from this matter. Although the board appreciates this community's interest and passion for the school district and its ongoing, the board, after gaining a full understanding of this matter, find that the concerns and complaints that have been expressed against the district administrations are unsubstantiated. The board supports and stands by its administration, including the processes used and decisions made by the administration with respect to the basketball program. As stated above, this conclusion is reached only after being informed of the facts and circumstances surrounding this matter. Such facts and circumstances remain a confidential personnel matter. We look forward to moving past this matter and refocusing on providing the best possible education for our students. Sincerely, the Board of Education. Signed, Danny Pyatt, Kristen Mattmiller, Catherine Solon, Dave Bardo, Bobby Braun, Jill Maddock-Nelson.
Thank you for reading that. Are there any other statements or questions about the consent agenda? Hearing none, your voting device is open. Would anyone like to change their vote? Vote is now closed. And the motion carries. Number 4, administration reports. I will turn it over to our superintendent, Mrs. Ojenski.
We have no Director of Business Services report for the month. Item B, we have the Director of Pupil Services and Special Education. Ms. Wagner's report is attached. Are there any questions? Item C, Director of Buildings and Grounds, update on the work of the Buildings and Grounds Director. Mr. Leiterman is present, and his report is attached. Are there any questions regarding his report? Item D, Director of Technology, E-rate overview and planning, cybersecurity incident, summary and response, WASBO conference attendance, and AI in schools, and AAP testing at the middle school, and one-to-one meetings with tech staff. Ms. Mushak's report is attached. Are there any questions regarding her report?
Just want to share my appreciation for her routinely detailed reports. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you. And Mrs. Mushak is online, so she can hear that. Thank you, Ms.
I did actually have a question.
Oh, sure.
I was just wondering, Ms. Mushak, I can never say your name right, I'm sorry. If there was any feedback you wanted to share about the conference attended relative to AI in schools. I think that's just an intriguing topic, and I didn't know if you shared in your report, but if there was anything that stood out to you or wanted to make special note of.
Sure, I can comment on that. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So that's been a trending topic in all of the technology conferences that I've been at, in particular WASBO. It really was policy driven in a sense where it's not something that we just want to turn on for everyone out of the gate. So we've been very strategic about turning on certain components of AI tools for staff first, and making sure that they're equipped with how to use it and how to use it appropriately. And we also have, once they're comfortable with it, we have some staff that we have then turned the tools on for students in certain pockets. So we have a few use cases of that coming up this month, actually, that we've opened up certain tools that are relative to the curriculum and have a legitimate use case where there's, you know, a planned lesson so that they're using it appropriately. And I'm hopeful that we'll have some staff that are willing to kind of share out some of those lessons so we can bring those to the board for some examples. But I feel like we're doing it the right way in the sense of giving staff some exposure to it. We do have some AI policies already in place that we've aligned to allow for those tools to be turned on. And we want to try to keep those tools within that tool belt pretty confined and not just opening up every, you know, AI tool that's out there because we're sensitive to the information that we're providing in the tool. But where it's appropriate and where it's educationally sound and safely able to be used is where we're trying to stop.
Thank you.
Kesha, I actually have a question too. Does the staff have access to Gemini right now in their Google Waffle?
So we have limited access. We don't pay for the current paid Education Plus licensing through Google, but that is definitely something that we're exploring right now, actually, in a sense where if we do purchase the paid version of Google, we'll be able to allow students to leverage more of the deep research tools that are allowed within Gemini. And in addition, some enhanced security features that we feel would be well worth the investment. So we are in the midst of trying to open that up without limitations so that our staff don't have limits as to what they can do within the tool. But we're trying to make sure that we do that in a very thoughtful way because we don't just want to open the whole can of worms in one swoop. So they do have access. It's the limited basic education version currently, and we're exploring the plus licensing.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Mushak? Okay, up next we have the Director of Curriculum and Instruction report, and I believe Ms. Stutzring will be introducing us, and our principals will be present, sharing some wonderful news regarding our benchmark assessment results. Ms. Stutzring.
So we are going to talk about our winter benchmark assessments. We all take the Ames Web Plus now here in Anago for K through 11th grade. This is our winter benchmark, so just as a review for people, we take it in fall, winter, and in spring. We use that data in fall to really inform our decisions around interventions, enrichment, where our gaps are across Tier 1, which means all of our students, how we can best address all of our students' needs, and then Tier 2 and Tier 3 as we dig deeper into students who may need a little bit more intensive intervention around literacy and math and how we best support them. This happens from 4K, where we call them centers, or they do skills groups, all the way up through 11th and 12th grade, and Mr. Morank's going to talk about the great success we've had at the high school this year around our RTI, which is that response to intervention. How are we responding to the data that we're getting, and how we're making sure that all of our students are getting what they need. So this is our winter benchmark. It's not going to be as elaborate as our fall or spring because it's basically just a check-in in the middle of the year to either say, yes, this is working, or no, we need to make a little bit more changes around what intervention we're doing for certain students, but we really drill down on each individual student across this entire district. And that's a huge success that we've seen in the last couple of years where teachers have always known their kids, but now we know like down to the deficit or the skill that they're advanced in around literacy and math. So when we're talking students, we talk at a more granular level around that data. So we're going to talk about our celebrations that we've seen are some areas of growth, because if we're not at 100%, we're not done striving for that. And then some of their action plans that they have set, because we know that March 11th is our ACT at the high school, March 18th is our pre-ACT and our makeup ACTs. Forward testing begins on March 16th, so we are kind of in that window of the last month before our state testing starts. It's the push right now of what can we do in the last month to make sure our students are ready for those exams. So I'll start with Mr. Moran from the high school. He's got great things to share, so he can come up and tell you all the great things about the high school.
Nathan, is that mic on? Is that microphone on?
Is the button pushed? Can you see the green light?
Now it is. No? Yes? Okay, perfect. If not, I got a loud voice, so. All right. Like Mrs. Stutzring said, I won't go through all the data points, but if you can see reading comprehension across the board in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and then obviously our total at the end is all in green. So pretty impressive. If you look at vocabulary, if you want to scroll up or down, however you want to look at it, Nathan. Again, once again, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and our total all in green. And if you want to scroll up a little farther, this is our composite score, so it's the combination of those scores, our silent, fluent reading as well. Again, 9, 10, 11, all in green. First time, I think, ever, or at least that I've been here, and I've been here for 18 years, that I've seen every category in green for reading. So a huge compliment to our teachers and our kids because that is impressive, very, very impressive. So,
Yay,
Yeah,
something big to
yeah.
celebrate.
And I can't stress how hard our kids are working and our staff is working, and I'll elaborate that on a little more. So, part of our action plan, and I went through some of that stuff last time I presented, but a few things I want to just continue to target on is our data. We look at that constantly in our PLTs, and it's something that drives our instruction every day. It's whether we're looking at essential standards or what kids didn't understand or what they didn't know. Every time our information and what we're doing is data-driven. So I think that speaks volume, and it's really shown on why we've improved. We continue to use Language Live. Kathy Glass is from Solution Tree as well. She was just recently here for 2 days. She presented on our T's paragraph, and those are informative essays and argumentative essays, and really drilled down into our topic sentence and our context, our evidence, elaboration, and summary in sentences. So basically, she went into our classrooms, modeled with our ELA teachers. She then observed our ELA teachers and gave feedback. And then she went into our PLTs with our instructional coach and continued to look at the data and really provide intentional feedback on what we can do to improve. And our teachers are very receptive on that feedback and taking that into the classroom. And again, we've just seen a lot of growth in our students and our teaching methods when we do those things. And then, again, just looking at, those writing strategies, reading strategies, and just reinforcing that culture of this is what we do. I think if you ask the kids at the beginning of the year what an intervention was, or even if you ask some of our teachers what an intervention was, they would probably tell you different things. If you ask them now, I would say 90% or more would tell you this is what it looks like. And it's just become the norm of what we do, and not something that is forced upon doing. It's just this is what we're going to do to improve, and kids and staff realize that, and that's why you've seen our kids grow, and the percentage of kids in interventions continue to get smaller and smaller. So that, that other than, again, test taking and some different things that we continue to do with the number of kids, 100% testing, and what was the other thing? Just making sure, again, we're not skipping anything in our PLTs or skipping anything in our classrooms. It's just been really important. And then if you scroll up and you look at our math, we did go down in every area, but if you remember last time when we presented, our scores were extremely high. So if you still look in the percentage of students who are below grade level, you can still see we're at 18, 19, 18, and total of 18, which means that 80% of our kids are at benchmark or higher, which is still really, really impressive. So again, we went down, but that doesn't mean that we're not continuing to see super successful high scores in the high school. So again, down, but a lot to commend on our students and our staff. Much like reading, math, Jen Wolf has just recently been here for the last day. She, again, like Kathy Glass, has joined our PLTs. She's been modeling for our staff. She debriefs with our staff. She goes into our classrooms. She provides us with resources and visuals. And then again, just looking at that data, what can we do to improve our teaching? What is the data saying with our essential standards? What do we need to teach? And what do we need to leverage on more in the classroom? And then just engagement. Her big focus was on engagement and making sure all kids are engaged and are a part of the learning process. We want to make sure that no students are disengaged, and we want to make sure that everybody has a voice in the classroom in their learning. So, and then just again, we're using our IXL for both reading and math as our enrichment to continue to not only focus on our interventions, but the kids who are not in our interventions. Amy talked about our ACT coming up on March 11th, and our pre-ACT on March 18th, and then our forward coming. We have a big window on when we can get that done. But Jen, our PLTs, our instructional coach, are all focused on incorporating ACT concepts and ideas into our learning, into our instruction, because we understand how important those tests are, and it's a combination of everything we do as well. So that's being incorporated in. And then I just want to say it's not just our math team, it's our ELA team. The T's paragraph was used across the board in all content areas. So if you had talked to one of our home ec teachers, they used the T paragraphs in some of their writing they did in their classroom. And so again, it's not just those focus groups, it's our entire school that's working to improve our math and our reading scores. And again, the data is showing, and it's becoming just what we do here at Antigo High School. Any questions?
I'm just going to give another round of applause to the high school. We have long said that we have great staff and great administration, and our numbers just didn't always show it. And with intentional work and data-driven decisions, we are seeing positive changes. And Mr. Morank, you've been here for many years, as you shared earlier, and this is quite an accomplishment for you. I'm very excited for you and your staff that we are making strides in the right direction. Of course, as a district, we are not where we want to be. We are not going to settle. So this is not our ideal outcomes, but this is how we get there. And on behalf of the board, we're very proud of the Antigo High School. This has been a long time in the making, and we're excited to see this growth continue.
And again, I just want to say it's an effort between everyone here, everyone in the high school, students, families. It's a collaboration between everyone, and we're going in the right direction. Like you said, we're not going to settle until we get to the top.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Danny?
Yes, sir. Dr. Bardo?
I just want to say that what we've seen over the last few years is that we had huge recognition last year for our middle school. And now we have students from that school that have gone through a couple years, 3 years of heading into the high school. So we have kids now, and then again from elementary now, with scores improving, now going into the middle school. What we're seeing is the hard work that our teachers have done and our administration in those buildings have done, because it starts in our elementary, and as those kids get better, they're going to be better in the middle school, and then they're going to be better in the high school, and that's what we're seeing, because it's a team effort from 4K to 12. And as a board member and a former administrator, I really appreciate all the work that's been done in this school district.
That's right. Yes, let's go.
All right. It's going to be hard to follow that up, Matt. We'll give it our best go around. We're going to start with math. So I think, Nathan, you got it on the right spot. So if you look at our scores for math all the way across the board, we did go up at every grade level, which is, again, a huge success to all of our teachers and all of our students that are working in those classrooms extremely hard every single day. So a big part of that is the WIN and the interventions that we work through. And when Mrs. McCann talks about the reading piece, she'll dive into those a little bit more. I'm going to focus a little bit more on our professional development and the work that we've done with Solution Tree with our math coaches. Jen Wolf is one, with Mrs. Keppel being at the middle school, and really how we focused and tailored in on the instruction that we're delivering to all students. And so I think the biggest thing is we're seeing all the work that we have put in over the last couple years start to come together and work together in one. So we spent a long time working through proficiency maps for the whole year. Then we looked at unit planning. We worked on assessments and really tailoring those and dialing those into the learning targets that match the standards that go along with them to make sure that the instruction that we're delivering to students is aligned to that state testing, the forward, to our in-house testing that we do. And now our conversations in PLC, we've really been looking at a data protocol and diving into what specific misconceptions are we seeing from our students based on what strategy we might have used the first time around, and then what other strategies can we utilize with that group of students who didn't get it to help us dive in and catch those students where we may have missed them by only using one or two strategies in the past. So I'll give you just one example of this so you can get an idea of how this would look in a meeting. This came from a 7th grade PLC that we had recently. They had an assessment around solving equations. And so when we dove into the data around that, the teacher had found kind of three major misconceptions. One was around the distributive property, one around adding integers, and one around combining like terms. All three kind of crucial parts to solving equations, whether the students are in 7th grade here, 8th grade, or when they get up to those high school classes. So we didn't just stop there. We were able to take one step further and now look into those three steps and see what strategies did we use to teach the first time around. So I'll dig into just one. If you look at adding integers, the first time that we went around, we did some class challenge around 99 math because our students were struggling, so we did an opener around that for several weeks. The number line or a tape diagram is another strategy that our teacher had used. And then in the discussion, we did more research and we collaborated with our coaches and we found like a seesaw method. The teacher had been using the money method. We also found a polymath that had been shared with us that is around the bucket of zeros, which is a great way to get students to start visualizing, adding those integers together, and then touched on the upside down triangle as well. So just coming into that one misconception that students have, we now were able to open up discussion and figure out what we needed to do in small groups, what would be best, or with whole group for certain classes, to get kids a different look, to get them a new strategy at learning that step in the process. And we're diving into that over the next couple weeks, and then we'll have some data coming off of that. But it's just neat to see the teachers really working around all of this different PD and all of these strategies that we've been able to dive into, and them making it very useful and impactful for our students. And I think by us continuing to work through that in our PLCs, we're going to make a big difference for those students who didn't get it the first time, and that's going to greatly impact the scores that you guys see on the screen even more.
Okay, so then we get to ELA. Our reading composite, we did overall okay. But if you break it down even further, our vocabulary is an area of concern. So you don't see that up on the board, but overall, our vocabulary in every grade level had gone down, except for 5th grade and 6th grade. So one thing that we've noticed with vocabulary is one thing to see a word and then get the definition, but a lot of our students don't have background knowledge. So really trying to build that background knowledge, and when they're hearing a word, are we just doing a topical like vocab sort? Yeah, I can match this word, but do you really understand what that word means? So from this winter benchmark, we dove into that with the whole school building in all content areas, because it doesn't fall all on reading, it falls on all of us. So we took a good look at that. Not that we have everything figured out, but our goal is to increase our vocabulary. Our reading composite scores, 6th grade, that is where one of our veteran teachers is at. She's actually retiring this year. So she does a really good job with that My Perspectives curriculum. And that curriculum can be very difficult. So in some of the other areas, like 8th grade, that was just kind of brought back to the middle school. So digging into that 8th grade My Perspectives and getting, feeling comfortable with that is really important. And when you're a teacher just staying ahead, and that can go for any one of us in the whole district. As a brand new teacher, you're just trying to stay one step ahead of the kids sometimes. That gets a little bit more complicated to have some of that foresight as we're talking about in our PLC. So you may not even know for sure what that misconception is in some of these areas, but just really trying to work through that. So overall, we did see some gains, and we are continuing to work through that. We have really strong connections with our solution tree. Just like Mr. Macht had talked about with misconceptions, we were doing the same thing with our language arts, and also we're doing that with our social studies and science. And we've added our social studies and science teachers fluently into our ELA coaching with Solution Tree, and we're going to be increasing their time with Jolene Keppel, our coach, too, to make sure that we're looking at those misconceptions and how are we helping each other out and working smarter, not harder. So like a misconception that we saw in ELA when there was a question that was being asked in this last assessment, from my perspectives, I noticed that the question that asked, like, you need to have 2 or 3 answers to this question, a lot of the students just gave 1 answer. So that should be a pretty easy cleanup. We talked about that. Like, if we're on the forward exam, our students are answering, but the teacher is reviewing. They're not giving the answer, but they are going to be submitting that test and making sure that everything is filled in. So we're going to make sure that we're taking a look at that more in depth to make sure that some of those real simple misconceptions or errors of just not filling in all the answers, that should be a pretty easy fix. And then another big area is text evidence. So our students are really not strong in citing text evidence. I think they just go quickly and they just want to try to get things done. They're not really digging into. So we're working really hard in that area. And again, all content and just making sure that are we all on the same knowledge base of what is citing text evidence? And then how do we convey that to our students? What's happening in high school, what's happening in elementary, and how do we fill those gaps? So beyond that, we're continuing with our Tier 3. With our special education students and some that don't have special education, we're focusing on Spire. We have title services, phonics for reading, and then we also have language. We're doing a lot of the same ones. I feel that's going to be beneficial too. A lot of times we're just shooting from the hip, which intervention are we going to use, and then progress monitoring it, but really not being fluent. So I feel that's going to be really helpful when we keep sticking to what we're doing and become more fluent in that. Our Tier 2, we did add Read Live, and we also added Read Works, where our students are focusing during WIN on reading comprehension and fluency, and also some writing. So we've made some adjustments, and we're also focusing on all of our standards throughout the year, but we're really getting into some of those specific, like what are the strategies for testing with our forward exam coming up. Our teachers have been using AI tools. So let's say that we have a question on a test that the students didn't do well on, and the misconception was like 90% of them. Well, how can we take that question, put it into an AI tool, mimic a similar question, and then hit that many, many times, not just when they're having that final assessment. So those are some of the things that we've been working on. Again, it's really our teachers have been working really, really hard. We have our paraprofessionals work really hard as well, as you know, and just a really good team. And it's good to see the high school and elementary and everybody really just trying to stay streamlined and focused. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, so North Elementary. First, I wanted to do some celebrating because we have all green numbers up there as well. We did lose 10 reading plans, which is very hard to do. Our staff has been working extremely hard on those, targeting those students with the reading plans. Similar numbers if you just scroll down with math. We have a lot to celebrate in the fact that we have a lot of growth across the board in math and with reading. So that's really, really important that we're doing that. However, there's always more growth that can happen. So if you just scroll back up to the literacy part, our numbers need to be, the percentage of students' growth needs to be higher. So that's one thing we looked at, some of the work, that's called the rate of improvement. Our rate of improvement does need to be higher as percentages. As far as, especially second and third grade, they're still struggling with, they did lose a lot of reading plans, but so what is happening is that, well, first off, we realized by looking at our data, our Tier 3 students needed extra support, a lot of it. So we were able to get another half-time title person in the building. Therefore, we were able to support up to 15 more Tier 3 students. That's huge. That's a lot of what we're looking at with this group. Secondly, we were able to take, and especially for second grade, we made what was called a boot camp, and we changed the boot camp about 3 times already, and The boot camp is when these students are working with our title teacher and our reading specialist, and they're the ones who are leading the neediest students to learn how to read and how to decode words. That's like a double dose of win is what's happening there. So that's great that we have the time and the ability to do that. So what other actions did we take? Our win times were all over the day. We took them and condensed them to the morning so that we could use our extra title person. Our schedule was like blown up to pieces, and everybody took that and was like, hey, we gotta do it because it's what's best for all of our students. So we moved teachers to what they were doing for win times. We pulled more students out. Our third grade, some of them has win now with some second grade, and we thought, whoa, we can do that. Our fourth grade took their schedule and they kind of blew it up because they realized, hey, we have the ability to do this now, so we have 2 bigger blocks of time instead of 4 smaller blocks of time. Our third and fourth grade, third grade especially, because third grade has reading plans and they have the forward to focus on. So they are using what's called an achievement block of time. They do writing, they use the forward writing rubric. They're preparing amazing paragraphs. Third and fourth grade is also using our heat maps, and we're using the example that the middle school had for using the Blitz tracker. We're tracking all the standards that have shown up on the forward exam for the last, I don't know how many years, but that's trackable data, so that we don't forget anything. And then when there's students that are missing out on some of those things, we do use IXL, which is our computer-based program. We assign them the ELA and the math to work through those things. So the staff at North has been working extremely hard to eliminate reading plans and to prepare for the forward exam and to do as many wonderful things as possible. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of them for doing what's best for everybody and changing their schedules and doing everything they need to do. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So at West Elementary, as you can see, I'll start with the ELA data. We have some green, we have some red. I'm going to jump back after I talk about what were some of the things that we're doing to talk about specifically our first grade data in our ELA section. But first, some of the things that we have put in place going forward for second semester. We've reorganized schedules to align directly to our HMH into reading curriculum. So some different chunks of our HMH are called things like the whole group section, foundational skills, writing. We have reorganized the teachers' schedules to mirror those sections. So we have specific times allotted in the schedules every day that we're working on those sections. Again, just a kind of a fidelity thing to make sure all the students are getting a guaranteed viable curriculum. We've added extra blocks into specific schedules according to what the data shows individual students need in those classrooms. So in a given classroom, some students might need, there might be a higher number of students that need help on CVC words. So we've added a CVC word time block into that schedule. Or they might need extra help on nonsense words. And if students need help on one of those things, a lot of times they need help on the other one. So we've added those extra time blocks into needed schedules going forward for second semester. We've reorganized our small groups to align with what students need. Our small groups continue to be our bread and butter, especially in our kindergarten classrooms and in all of our classrooms really. But we've really focused in on some of the support in kindergarten. We've focused title support into those classrooms as well. So in a classroom that has a higher need of students that need a little bit more help, we have as many as 4 adults at a time at the end of the day, running student groups in there. So students are getting small group support with an adult for an hour every single day during that time block. So when they rotate through those stations in a traditional classroom that might not have an IA, that might not have title support, students are doing independent activities outside of their rotations with their one individual teacher. But in some of those classrooms that need a little bit more support, we have, like I said, as many as 4 people in those rooms now, delivering more structured, specific support for those students in highest need. One awesome thing that is happening, our IAs in kindergarten have started to join our weekly PLC meetings. And this was by choice by them. They asked to join our PLCs, which I thought was super powerful. They're really invested in being a part of that group process and teaching students, and not being an IA who is just kind of doing maybe clerical things in the classroom, which are also important, but really investing themselves in teaching those students alongside teachers and running those groups. So that's a really powerful thing that's happening right now. Flipping back to the data section, now I want to talk about and address specifically the first grade data, because we had our highest drop, although it was a small drop in that -3% of our first grade data. This is a somewhat typical somewhat common thing that happens in first grade, specifically because of the fluency aspect that gets built into first grade ELA instruction. We move from letters, letter sounds, CVC words, nonsense words, building small words and being able to decode them and sound them out, into reading full sentences and being fluent with them, and that's kind of a bigger bowl to fill. It doesn't happen as quickly as working with letter sounds and letters and sounding out short words does. So across other districts and other places, this is a somewhat common thing to see. Not acceptable, and we're working on it. But by the end of the year, that's something that we hope we're going to see a lot of improvement in as our first graders continue to learn how to read full sentences. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people might say that first grade is one of the biggest building blocks for reading, because we move from being able just to sound out individual words to actually read for fluency. Like I said, a bigger bowl to fill there. And then moving on to math. Our math data was really, really awesome. We saw lots of green, which is great. This is a testament to the fidelity in sticking to our new resource, and in our implementation year of the illustrative math resource. At the beginning, it's new. Not everybody is so sure about it. We're still learning how to teach it. But I think this data kind of shows that it's going the right direction. We've talked about we haven't talked about it yet, we'll be talking about it in our next Guiding Coalition meeting, building in some look-fors specifically for the illustrative math curriculum. And we haven't really talked about that yet, but I think that it's really important that we're pushing that continuous improvement plan in that direction, not just focusing on ELA, but building in the math as well, to identify exactly where we're moving up and identify places where we might not see it in the data, where we can continue and improve. But again, that's just a testament to sticking to the curriculum and trusting in it, and it's showing. I wanted to address that one red number in there as well for our 4K quantity total fluency. What that is it is really showing 4Kers how to subitize. And if you don't know what subitizing is, it's it's the first building block of being able to do mental math. So we do it with our 10 spots, so there'll be 10 blanks, and 7 of them might be filled out with little dots in there. Our students need to, within a certain time limit, tell us how many dots are here, how many dots are in this one, how many dots are in this one. Over time, you build up the ability just to be able to look at that block and say, oh, there's 7, right? Any of us could do that, or if there's 6, you can build 3 and 3 and see them together. That is another skill that it comes a little bit slower for our 4Kers. So that's something that we're still working on. Again, that is a step towards mental addition and mental math. But it will come eventually, but that's why you might see a little bit of lag in winter with that as well. So, coming back, just looking forward, I referenced our guiding coalition earlier. We'll be meeting again very soon, and we'll be talking about a few different things. We'll be proposing maybe talking about a staff data dig, about looking into some of these math scores, because we haven't really done that yet since I've been there. And again, developing some of those look-fors in illustrative math as well as continuing some of our line items that we have in our continuous improvement plan for ELA. I also want to, just as everybody else did, highlight that this is a team mindset. I've never been more impressed by the willingness of everybody in that building to work together and come together to make sure that students are learning every single day, especially in the recent weeks and like the recent month. We've had lots of illnesses, staff and students alike, and everybody is coming together, and learning never takes a lapse in that building. We are ensuring that students are learning every single day, and that's a testament to our coaches, our teachers, our title teachers, our IAs, every single person in the building. Are there any questions?
I just have 2 comments. One, I think it's awesome that pairs are in the PLCs. That's just amazing. And 2, I really love how your teaching of German like comes out when you're talking about fluency with the littles. You can never get rid of that.
Correct. Thank you. Are there any more questions?
Do you think, is the HMH, is it, how's the knowledge building and vocabulary building components of it? And are we actually doing the phonics in this program now? Do the teachers like it, or do you guys think it's good, or is it?
Feedback on HMH has been really positive. Again, we're in 3rd year of implementation, so we're going to start to really seeing our big jumps as everybody continues to get as familiar with it as they can. And like I said, we're doing specific things like building it into our schedule now. So everybody's teaching the same way. Our PLC structure is set up in the same way, like with our IAs joining, that everybody's going to be on the same page and everybody's using the same language around it.
So I mean, is it like 30 minutes of phonics a day right now, or 20, or an hour? Or?
Yeah, each block has different time lengths on it. Whole group is roughly 25 minutes. The phonics section is 30 minutes. Each one is a little bit different. They're all around the 20 to 30 minute mark, short stints throughout the day. But yeah.
In the math, does it feel explicit enough? I just know I was trying to read my 4th grader's math book, and I was deeply unimpressed. I was just like, this is not explicit at all, so then I would Google to look up the answer.
So,
I was like,
so really, that was one of the feelings as I got there and started to get into the classrooms and listen to teachers. That is one of the feedback items that teachers have given, is that it doesn't really feel explicit enough. It's not really what we're used to teaching and learning and what we all got taught as we learned it. But I think the data speaks for itself. It's going up. What it is it's more active for students. There aren't students just sitting and getting in the classrooms. They are doing every single day. And it's very short and specific towards specific skills. So students aren't bored in math class. Math classes are generally a little bit louder in volume, and it shows because the students are enjoying it and they're learning, and they're talking about their learning too in math, which traditionally hasn't happened in math classes before. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So JD, yes, when we piloted last year, I don't know if you remember the illustrative math, we talked about how we didn't feel there was enough practice pieces afterwards, like, so the direct instruction happened in centers and there was some direct instruction, but then the teacher said they chose this one, but they wanted more practice for the students on concepts that they needed more repetition on. And that's why we put IXL down to the elementary, so that they can then put that exact standard that they were teaching in their centers and in their direct instruction, so that students have that extra repetitive practice. So that was one of the things we put in there. And then we do the foundational skills for the phonics, but we also have like the Rigby readers and the decodables out of HMH, and that's when that knowledge building comes in, the vocabulary pieces like that. So CKLA, another resource that we do not have, had a great knowledge building once it got to 3rd and 4th grade, but had lesser of the phonics skills at that foundational level. This we found has both, and we're seeing that, and we're building that vocabulary around as those kids are getting into the Rigby readers and breaking down the vocabulary and the fluency pieces.
Are you trying to send decodables home with
Yeah.
kids? How does that go?
Yeah, so we can print them off. So what our teachers are doing, especially at West, is they'll use the decodable reader throughout the week, so that the kid has the repetition around the reading of it, and then send it home, so that when it gets home, the families don't have to then teach their students. Then it's mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, look at what I can read, because in the class, I have read it with my small groups so many times that I feel successful, and then I can get that repetition at home, reading to a younger brother, sister, or somebody else. So, and parents know that they can always contact us if they want more decodable readers. We send decodable readers home with students who maybe need to practice at a lower level, because their independent level is a little bit lower than their instructional level in the classroom, so that they can feel confident. So teachers have access to all of that.
I just laugh because now I've been watching the Science of Reading fight for so long. You know, kind of one of the guys who started it is now like, oh no, are we teaching too much phonics? And I know that that's not an issue for us, but it just
Yes.
makes me chuckle how
But the pendulum always swings, right? It
Yes.
goes all the way to whole language, and then it comes back to like just phonics, and then we want to keep in the middle of the pendulum, making sure that we're teaching all of the concepts around literacy, so that we don't get sucked into just like, all we do is phonemic awareness and phonics. But we have great decoding skills, and then we can't read. And we get to 4th grade, and we can't understand anything. So we have both encompassed in HMH, and we're seeing that result. Yeah. Last thing, I just wanted to say, when you heard all these wonderful administrators talk, you'll notice that not one thing was negative. We could sit in any district and talk about every negative thing out there and this and that, but when you hear this, and you see the scores, and you see people really working hard, when we had to pull a title teacher to North to help support, it came from the middle school. So like, our schools are looking out for each other as well. When the high school needs something, they have all the support they have. Our reading specialist actually gives up an hour and a half of her day to go to North and teach that boot camp, because she knows they need support and it's the best for kids. So I just wanted to uplift that it's a whole system-wide. And if you look at all the positive things that Anago has going on, and the teachers that we have teaching here, and how much they give, and how at North, and West, we demolish those schedules. And when you do that to teachers, that's not always a good feeling. And you can't do that at all districts and schools and just be like, hey, remember that schedule you ran for 6 months? It's over, and now there's a new one, without a lot of gripe and stress. None of our teachers did that. They were like, when should we move when?
Wow.
Who needs this? I'll give up my aid for this. You can have my title teacher. I'm going to come over here and do this. We'll plan together here. So that's one thing that I don't think is highlighted, especially on Facebook. So if anyone feels the need to put it out there, that our teachers will do whatever's necessary to make kids succeed at all levels. You can ask middle school teachers, they know their kids, they know where the kids need to be. The high school is super proud of themselves, of how hard their kids are working, and kids don't just show up and try their best every day, unless they have people who care and love them in the school. So kudos to our teachers and our administrators for all their hard work. So in spring, we'll bring the data back even better.
Thank you.
Danny?
Yes, sir.
I know you don't like getting positives yourself. I know you don't, but I'm going to give it, because there was a big change 2+ years ago. And now the principals are teachers. They're all talking the same language. That's what I've heard from everybody here. They're all on the same page. They're willing to give people who work just like the middle school to North. There's only been one big change, and that was who was doing our curriculum and instruction. And don't ever forget, you're the leader, and you're appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Stutzreen.
Can I just want to comment too, that we've pushed academic achievement strongly in the last couple of years, and we've seen that those outcomes in our data and in the state ranking. We went from the bottom of the state to the middle of the state currently, and we are bound and determined to hit that number one spot. That's not a joke anymore. That's not a laughing matter. That is our drive and our determination. With that being said, this board, I believe I could speak on behalf of all, and our administration all pointed out that we are not where we want to be across the board. Our percentage of students below grade level, not acceptable. We all know that, so we can celebrate our successes, but I also want to share, and because Ms. Stutzreen points this out all the time, we as adults can be happy with our progress and also know that we aren't where we want our students to be yet, and we will get there. And all the detailed information and shared and all the interventions and techniques, like, I could have made a page-long list of that. So it's showing that collaborative effort across the board. So thank you for your work. We know that we aren't there yet. We're not satisfied with this, but we are very pleased with the work that was done, or has been done and continues to. And we feel very strongly that that growth will be there in the spring also.
Correct. Anybody else want to share?
I have one more thing. I want to piggyback off of what Mr. Wanninger said about the instructional assistants. That was an academic return of investment that the board approved for kindergarten to have instructional assistants in their classroom. And I think that's a true testament to the payoff from that they're not just, Chris Grant can probably speak to this as well, sitting in the audience. I've always said, our instructional assistants assist with instruction. We're not having high-paid babysitters. You can help to facilitate that learning and reteach what's already been taught in small groups. So I think that is a big celebration, and also a big shout out to our teachers. They've implemented new resources. They've worked hard. When you dive into standards work and the work that they're doing with Solution Tree at the middle and high school, it's oftentimes met with a lot of pushback. But I think teachers also want to reap the fruits of their labors, and that comes from our student outcomes, and I think that's very evident in all of our buildings. It's a huge celebration. Again, reiterating what Jill said, we're not where we want to be yet, but we're headed in the right direction. And that also does not go without saying that it is because of the support of our wonderful administrators that we have in the district. So thank all of you for everything you do and give every single day. I know there's lots and lots of late hours, lots of weekends, so thank you. Okay, up next, superintendent's report. I will try to be brief. Attached in the schedule or in my report is an update on the construction project at John H. Bradley Elementary. We also met with our muralist. She came and did some additional measuring. We also continue to meet frequently with our designer, Sue, around all things with furnishings. Also, she is working with us on the projects at the middle school as well. On January 28th, all of our central office staff joined together and we went to the food pantry, and as a way to give back to our community, we all packed backpacks for the web backpack program for our elementary schools in the public school and also in the parochial schools. It was rather entertaining to watch all the alpha personalities roll in and try to follow Michelle Arlen's wonderful guidance. And we kind of tweaked some things and made it our own, and we rolled through there like true fashion and got the job done. And it was great to get to spend some time with Michelle. It was great to spend time together outside of the work environment for a very good cause. For those of you that are present today and watching, I encourage you to get involved with our food pantry and the weekend backpack program. They're always looking for volunteers, so a special thank you to our central office staff for joining me in that important event. As Mr. Moronk said, Kathy Glass, a consultant with Solution Tree, was present at our high school working with our teaching staff around writing, and I was able to be there and participate in that, as well as watch her provide instruction in one of our classrooms at the high school. It was wonderful. I have a hard time sometimes not talking so much. when it comes to writing, because that's what I did, and I always want to say, well, what about this? Well, what about that? And then I'll say, I'm going to try to stop talking. So it was a great way to spend some time that day, being in the classrooms, seeing former students that I had at North Elementary who are now at the high school level, and collaborating with Mr. Moronk and his staff at the high school. Also, the next thing attached is the approval that we received for the exception to start school before Labor Day. As we noted in the January board meeting, our submission was late because we didn't realize that it had to be submitted to DPI before or by January 1st, and they were out of the office for vacation as well themselves. So when they got back to us, there wasn't time to call a special meeting to have that taken care of. So we linked the approval from DPI here for everyone to also see. Building principal meetings each month, lots of discussion around staffing, master planning for the 26-27 school year, and preparation for the 25-26 spring assessments. And today, Mr. Leiterman and I met with a rep from Playgrounds, and we started the process of getting some baseline design for the playgrounds. If those of you that were present for our open house last year when we closed East, and we had the open house, and all the kids and families were invited to attend North and West to find out where they were going, meet their teachers, all the things. One of the things all the kids said when they looked at the renderings of John H. Bradley Elementary was, wow, it's got 2 playgrounds. So having great playground equipment is very, very important, especially considering the board had great conversation around whether or not to be a little frugal with our taxpayer dollars and wait and see if we had the referendum, a successful referendum, to put additional funds into a playground at the new school, because it would only just be at North Elementary for a short period of time, which I think was a great decision. So there will be more to come around the playgrounds. We will be sharing that with our staff and also with students to get feedback from them as well. So more to come around that. And I have nothing further. Questions? Okay.
Just roughly how much is playground equipment?
Well, it all depends, JD, on how much you want to spend. So you have to negotiate. So I already started negotiating, and they talked about a Gaga ball pit that Ms. Stutzream and I both had experience with, and I was like, I don't know about the Gaga ball pit. And he was like, well, you could have it with your own school logo on it. And I said, free? It's free? Well, and I said, it's free? Yes, it's free. Okay, that's.
Gaga ball pit.
You will see one soon. The kids love it. I think there are some other schools who have Gaga ball pits, but the kids all get in this like little ring, and then they hit a ball back and forth on the ground to one another. They really enjoy it. It's just really not the greatest thing if the weather's not great and you have a muddy surface. So you have to be aware of that. But the kids do enjoy it. So we will be having a Gaga ball pit.
There's one at the middle school.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Didn't know that. So, yeah. So it can range anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million.
Okay, item number 5, board action, letter A, consideration to approve the second reading on the Neola policies, volume 34-2. I would be looking for a motion, please.
I move to approve the second reading of the Neola Policies, Volume 34-2 as presented.
Motion's been made by Catherine. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Is there any discussion of the motion on the floor?
Yes, I would like to bring up 0.144.5 again. I don't think we need the reputation of to be added into the conduct by the board members that compromises the reputation of. I just have a lot of questions, like who is defining what the reputation is? Is it the board president? Is it the press? Is it the community, social media? That's just a pretty broad term. And it could be used against board members if they speak out about something that is unpopular. Board members may not want to speak their truth, or stand up for things if they are scared of hurting the reputation of the board that is deciding on who, I mean, and we don't even know who is deciding what the reputation is, defining what the reputation is. So that's I just feel like it will add to secrecy rather than be more transparent.
Are you offering an amendment to that policy that you would like to share?
Yes, but I need help, please.
Okay, let's talk about what you would like to do. You want to just strike the reputation or?
Yes.
And just that sentence would read, conduct by board members that compromises the legal position of the district are prohibited.
Correct.
All right, so there's an amendment on the floor for this policy number 0144.5. And that amendment on the floor is what we need to talk about, and that's what we need to have all of our discussion in favor of. So if you have your policy opened, you'll look in the second paragraph where the first green highlighted words are, and that is what Abby is asking to be stricken. And that last sentence would read, conduct by board members that compromises the legal position of the district are prohibited. Any discussion? Or Abby, would you like to add any more discussion on that?
Yeah, just that we already have legal position. I mean, so I feel like it's a little bit redundant. I mean, legal position's pretty straightforward. If you're hurting the legal position, that's not good.
Okay, any other discussion of the motion on the floor, which is to amend that line? Yes, Kristen?
Glenda, did you speak with our Neola representative where that came from, that language?
Yes. So I reached out to Tim Bannock, and he was able to get in touch with the attorneys that work for Neola, and this is the recommendation from them. The language in question is not statutory. It's based on the principle that an elected school board member holds a fiduciary responsibility to the school district. A fiduciary generally has duties of loyalty, care, and obedience. These duties require members to act in the best interest of the district, protect its reputational interests, and adhere to governance rules and policies. And in layman's terms, he also added, he felt that it was also a way of saying, we expect students to behave in a particular manner and hold themselves accountable. We have the same expectation for all of our staff in the school district, and this is just extending that to encompass school board as well.
Thank you.
Mrs. Wojcinski, since that was an email from our representative from Neola, that would be submitted in for record. That was read for all to see. Any other questions on the amendment to this policy or discussion?
Will you read that part again, Glenda? What did they say the fiduciary obligation was? Loyalty?
A fiduciary generally has duties of loyalty, care, and obedience. These duties require members to act in the best interest of the district, protect its reputational interests, and adhere to governance rules and policies.
The obedience part is weird to me, but, I don't typically think of that, especially if the board is providing the directions, and what are we obedient to?
I would venture to, that word stood out to me at first too. However, I guess my impression of obedience within this context would be a board vote. So you could vote in the minority, but if the majority votes in favor of something, now you as a board as a whole support the board majority of, so you don't have to, and I've been there too, we don't have to love the outcome of a vote, but now that is what we as a board are moving forward with. So that's how I take obedience of the majority spoke, and now that's the direction. But it caught me off guard initially too. I had to ponder that.
Any other questions or discussion of the amendment of this policy 0144.5?
Just for the record, the updates come from Neola to
Yes,
us,
ma'am.
correct? So the Unified School District of Antigo was not making the recommendation to add that language specifically. That is coming from Neola. So I want that to be clear because I think that's a helpful distinction too. And I think you make a valid point of defining reputation. And I also appreciate the feedback you gathered, Ms. Wojcinski. And what resonates with me is holding ourselves to the same standard that we hold our students to. I think that's important and unified.
Any other questions or discussion of the motion of the amendment to policy 0144.5? Okay, so everybody is clear on how you are voting. If you are in favor of this amendment to delete reputation or, then you're going to be voting yes. If you are against this amendment and leaving the reputation or, then you will be voting no. Is there any questions? Everybody understands how you're voting. Okay, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion fails. We go back to the main motion on the floor. Any other questions of this Neola policy, second reading, volume 34-2? Hearing no questions of the motion on the floor, the
May I
voting.
make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be voting in favor simply because I think that we as adults need to hold ourselves to the same standards that we hold our expectations for students. So for that reason alone, I appreciate the additional information gathered. That's why I'll be voting in favor, for no other reason than I think that's very important.
Yes, ma'am.
I also appreciate the feedback that you gathered. But my problem isn't with holding myself to a standard. It's just who is doing the deciding. That was my problem with it.
Any other questions?
I would
Kristen?
just say in relation to that, if there was any question about the policy or that behavior, it comes to the board and the board determines if it was appropriate or not. It's not a single person who would make that decision. It would be a board vote.
Correct. Any other discussion? Okay, the voting device is now open for the motion on the floor, and that is to approve the second reading of the Neola policies 34-2 as presented. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter B, consideration to approve the request to create COTA, which is Certified Occupational Therapist Assistant position. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move to approve the request to create a certified occupational therapy assistant position.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion, please?
No.
Okay. Any questions concerning the motion on the floor or discussion? Once again, any questions considering the motion on the floor or discussion? Hearing no questions or discussion of the motion on the floor, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter C, consideration to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 9 Contract Services Agreement. I would be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the 2026-2027 CISA 9 contract in the amount of $984,111.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I'm not on the committee that this presumably was brought to. I assume so, at least, was it? I didn't check other, yeah, that's what I thought. However, the reason I wanted to make the motion was because I did follow up with Ms. Wojcinski when I was looking at line items on this, and there's a lot, significant sticker shock, in addition to a price increase. And so I would like to hand it over to Ms. Wojcinski to just explain, because you look number to number, and it does state in there, the school psych and the speech language positions are the primary reason or significant reason for the cost increase. But I thought it was just a I actually asked, like, did wages increase? Like, what is contributing to that significant price increase? And there's a lot of factors that go into it in terms of what that provider can or cannot do, what that provider is willing or not willing to do. And so I would like to hand it off to you to just share a little bit more, and I appreciate the additional attachments that are in here somewhere. That just gives it a different, additional information, because the general public should have a better understanding, just like me as a board member wanted a better understanding, because I think this is an insane amount. However, when we talk through it, it makes sense. It doesn't have to feel good. It's still a lot of money, but it makes sense, so.
Right. Okay, thank you, Jill. So part of the changes in the amount of the contract is due to the fact that, as Jill said earlier, we had in the past 2 of our own staff that were full-time school psychologists. Then we, last year, contracted with CISA, and as you know, our teacher contract days have changed in Antigo. It used to be that everyone got a 190-day contract. That was how everything was built. Well, we no longer work a 190-day contract with our teaching staff. So when we go to contract with these consultants through CISA 9, all of their schedule is still built around a 190-day contract. So last year when we were looking at securing 2 school psychologists, the best that they could offer us was 152 days of one and 152 days of another, which meant there were times in the year that we only had 1 school psychologist available to our students and our families, which is not enough because we have a large number of referrals that come and go.
Actually, you make a good point. I think that it would be helpful to state, too, that the school psych position is a necessary, required position relative to IEP referrals, evals, and re-evals. So for IEPs, we are required to have that position. So I should have thought of that. That language could seem more appropriate in like a mental health field, but this is very specific to IEPs.
Correct. Yes, that's a very good point. Just to be clear, school psychologists do the assessments for students who are in an evaluation cycle, for a re-eval for their IEP, and also for new referrals if a student has gone through the RTI process and there is deemed to be a time that they need to move forward with an evaluation. The school psychologist is the person that primarily does that assessment. Some other additional providers will oftentimes participate as well. So like if they also receive speech, a speech language therapist will also administer their own assessments. But these are things that we are required to provide for our students. So we don't have a choice in the matter. Also in the CISA 9 contract, we had staff who have retired who were speech and language, and since COVID, it has very much become very popular to have many positions remote, and speech is one of those. We have been fortunate enough that we have secured a couple of consultants from CISA who want to come on site a couple of times because it's difficult for our youngest learners, like 4K students, to have to sit at a screen and try to do their speech. So we have some who will come on site for part of those services. Those 2 are in high demand, school psychologists, speech, special ed teachers, just about anything to do in the special education world is a hot commodity, and those are positions that are very hard to fill. So last year, when we completed our CISA 9 contract, we were kind of late in the game getting it submitted, so that meant we had to take the remainder, which also meant they didn't have enough staff to fill our need. So we had to contract with other providers, and when you contract with other providers, sometimes they don't do everything you need, like we had a part-time school psychologist or a part-time speech person, but they're not going to do any evaluations, and they have the opportunity to say that. So we had to hire additional staffing to be able to do that because these are things that are required of us. We don't have a say or an option. We don't get to elect not to do that. And if you look at the topic summary sheet, and Mrs. Wagner is here and she can speak more in depth if you have further questions, but if you look at the additional CISA contract information for special education, those are some of the companies that we had to subcontract with to meet the needs of the number of special ed students and our IEP required minutes or specially designed instruction and services. So I will allow Ms. Wagner to answer any questions you may have, or if you would like to speak to that a little further, Deb, I would welcome you to do that.
Yep. So the second tab document really kind of puts the totals out there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. For what we had to add to our CISA contract last year. So we needed to add .4 per physical therapy. That was an additional $33,000. That physical therapist didn't have enough time to do physical therapy evals. We had to add again. So very similar.
I think it would be helpful if you put the mic a little bit closer. Again, this is like $1 million thing. And I mean,
Yeah.
really, that's a lot of money.
Green too.
You may even need to take it out of the holder. That
Yep,
may help
I'm
you.
short.
Deb.
Got to bring it down. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep, and,
Okay.
and you just mentioned a physical therapist was $33,000. That, again, is tying to an IEP, so an identified need throughout the IEP process. Now, the school district would be required to provide physical therapy for a student based on their IEP.
Yes.
Good.
When we were originally looking at the CISA 9 contract, we had a physical therapist through Health in Motion, and that person was no longer available. We need to have physical therapy, so we added on to our CISA 9 contract. Again, they weren't available to do the evaluations. That person, the physical therapist, is working through CISA 8. They're traveling to us when we have the contract, so we did contract out for evaluations for physical therapy. We had an increase of need for occupational therapy, taking on, we brought RVA related services, so speech and language, occupational therapy, back to the district in-house. RVA was increasing their contract. We historically, for the last 3 years prior to this year, we're paying RVA to provide the speech and language and the occupational therapy. So in order to better service the students, get them reconnected back to our district, we pick that up, and that part of the days was added to the contract. With the number of increase of evaluations across the district for special education, not just for academic concerns going through the RTI process, but also behavioral concerns going through the process of behavior intervention in the buildings, but also parent referrals. Our early childhood referrals are also increasing drastically right now, and that is universal across the state. We are finding littles that are not not ready to come to school, delayed in early academics and delayed in speech. So our early childhood population really kind of needed that support with the school psychologist virtually. And then again, even though we did get speech and language providers from our CISA 9 counterparts, 2 were in person, they're hybrid model, they're coming 1 day a week. The other were virtual, that it was 3 different providers to make up a full-time position. Their contract through the service provider did not have them doing evaluations, so we needed to contract out those evaluations again on top of what we had. So the other big thing you're going to note is down below for 26-27, there is an increase, but we are going from 152 days, and for school psychs typically need additional time to come in the beginning of the year to look at the process, look at the procedures, and initially, by the time we started this year, we had 10 evals before day 1 when we opened. We need the school psychologist here right away in the beginning to acclimate, get to know the buildings, the schools, and the staff, so that they can provide those comprehensive evals. So that increase alone and $50 per day increase is over $84,000 just for the 2 psychs that we had this year also. So that is in addition to what we paid last year. We're also going from 3 speech and language pathologists to 4, and looking to get 100, or 190 days instead of 152. When we look at 152 days, that's 4 out of 5 days per week. So with the number of early childhood, so even though we are getting students to graduate from speech at the high school and middle school, our littles and the numbers that are coming in are growing quickly. Questions?
So my understanding, to summarize everything, is we are doing this all through CISA versus
One
having
CISA.
one CISA versus having several contracts to meet the needs that were discussed.
Yes.
So this cost is significantly higher than last year and the year prior because we are doing a one-stop shop.
Yep. And the great thing about working with our local CISA, a lot of these jobs are already posted on WeCan. We can continue to work with CISA. If we hire somebody in-house, CISA allows us to amend our contract to take that cost off of what we are paying. This secures us a position, but if we fill our position, they have another location to put that person. So we can change our contract.
Which is great because it provides us flexibility, and I do think that we will get a couple of those positions in-house for next year. But also, I think it's important too to note, Jill, that the number of days with the school psychologist increasing to 200 adds additional cost to that bill as well, instead of 152. Which is definitely needed because we have students who, before school starts, they need evaluations, and after school is out as well. So the 200 days is something we definitely can take advantage of.
And the cost is comparable, correct? Like if we were to hire the psychologist or the pathologist in-house and include benefits, it's as good, if not better.
Yes.
For CISA.
Yes, correct. Yep.
So with salary and benefits, yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's the other point, is that this is Fund 27. So all of this is special ed. So that's in a separate fund from our Fund 10 so we're getting money from the state into Fund 27 to take care of this.
Deb, can you correct me? When I look at this paper, 25, 26 CISA, we're paying for this year $526,942 for this year, currently.
For this year currently,
Yep, for this contract year.
yep. So
All
what
right.
I did at the top of that page, the 359,000
Yep,
is the total CISA 9 contract.
okay.
Underneath the
I see
chart,
what you broke it out.
yep, that is our special ed portion only.
So we're paying $583,359 for this year for CISA 9 contract. In addition to that 583, we're paying approximately, because the bill's not all the way done, because we're still in the current school year, we are adding to that $701,000. So we're paying well over $1 million for what we're getting for less than $1 million for CISA 9 for next year.
No.
Right or wrong?
Wrong. I'm going
Okay,
to go back and
correct
correct
me.
you. Yep, so underneath the chart is
Yes.
a total of $526,942.
Okay,
That is the total CISA 9 contract that we signed. Then there are the bullet point add-ons.
yes,
So our current total is $701,709 this
Okay.
year.
okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that correction. Are there any other questions for the motion on the floor to approve the CISA 9 contract for 2026, 2027? All right, hearing no questions or discussion of the motion on the floor, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. All right, give me just a second to clean my screen up. Too many tabs open. Letter D, consideration to approve the annual audit reports. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move to approve the annual audit report as presented.
Motion's been made by Catherine. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Only that this is a yearly process, and we received a clean audit report. Any other questions can be deferred to Ms. Fossbender.
Okay, are there any questions or discussion of our annual audit report? I just want to say thanks to Kelly and all of her team, because that process is very taxing on your entire department, so thank you so much. If there are no other questions or discussion, the voting device is now open. Try one more time, JD. Would anyone like to change their vote? All right, the vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter E, consideration to approve the construction management CM for the middle school. I will be looking for a motion, please.
I move to approve I move to approve Myron Construction as a construction manager for the referendum work at the Anago Middle School as presented.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I am just going to confirm that the benefits of having Myron, they're already on staff, we're already working with them, all the things still apply for the middle school.
Mr. Leidman's coming to the...
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is with,
I'm going to ask you to put your mic up too. I know this got a lot of attention in the previous meeting regarding central office, so I want to make sure.
Is it
everybody can
possible
hear
to turn that mic up, Nathan? Okay.
I would take it out of the folder.
can you hear me now? Okay. So with this particular agreement with the construction management for the middle school, we did put it out to bids, and we received 2 bids. Those are presented in front of you for comparison. We had two other firms that contacted us to say that they were not going to submit a number due to, I'm not going to comment to why. They just said that it wasn't in their best interest with their current situation. So those are the 2 numbers that we got. Obviously, they're structured a little different. As you can see, I don't want to get too far into that, but yeah, just reiterate, the long-standing success that Myron has had, not only in this community and district, but throughout their whole company, is very impressive. We've had really good luck with them. I have no concerns and extremely happy to have them on board.
Are there any questions or discussion for Mr. Leideman for the motion on the floor? Okay, hearing no questions or discussion of the motion to approve Myron Construction as the construction manager for the referendum work at the middle school as presented. Voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Letter F, consideration to approve the English language handbook. I will be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the ELML handbook as presented for the remainder of the 25-26 school year and the start of the 26-27 school year.
Motion has been made by Jill. Would you like to speak to your motion?
This was brought to committee. What's outlined in the handbook is already being implemented and utilized currently within the district. We just formally have to bring it to the full board for approval. So it is not a new process implemented, it's just formally being approved by the board.
Is there any discussion or questions of the motion on the floor? Hearing none, the voting device is now open for the motion that is on the floor before you. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. Consideration to approve the Achievement Gap Reduction, AGR data objectives. I would be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the winter 2025-2026 AGR data as presented.
Motion has been made by Abby. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Is there any questions for the motion that is on the floor or any discussion?
We're required to review the data, which was presented earlier tonight.
All right. Hearing no other questions or discussion of the motion on the floor, the voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. So thank you to all the staff, the students, and all the hard work for all that achievement that's going on in the district. Letter H, consideration to approve the report of donations. I will be looking for a motion.
I move to approve the following donations. Covantage donated Canon Pro 224-inch printer, a value of $2,000 for AHS Room 109. Inigo Elks donated $112 to the German Club. Donna Gilson donated $1,000 to the AHS Greenhouse. And a correction to be noted, Center Court Club 800 was not a donation, but a payment for the open records request.
Motion has been made by Catherine. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Just to say thank you for the donations.
Any other questions or discussion of the motion that is on the floor before you?
As noted earlier, when JD recognized that minutes were a bit more detailed, this is, I'm just going to ask because it's for clarification or more information. It's not typical to have a correction noted. And I looked back at the January donations. So can you speak to that statement, a correction to be noted, Center Court Club $800 was not a donation but a payment for the open records request?
Sure. So a check was submitted from the Center Court Club, and when it was brought to district office, the person who submitted it to Deanna, she asked the question of what is this for? Is this for a donation? And he said, it's for boys basketball. And she said, well, is it for a donation? And they said, yeah, I think so. And so she gave them the check back and said, please write donation on the memo line. So it was received as a donation, but we were still waiting for a payment for an open records request that had been filed regarding boys basketball. And our attorney kept in communication wanting to know if we had received the payment, and we said no. So he reached out, which is typical practice, to the requester and said, we don't have the check. So then it was clarified, and so for our record-keeping accuracy, we needed to make sure that it was clear because we received it, but yet we didn't know for sure what the money was supposed to be used for the January board meeting. So it was originally submitted as a donation, when in fact it's not a donation. The Center Court Club paid $800 for an open records request regarding boys basketball.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you. I was not sure what that meant, and I would assume others probably weren't, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
Any other discussion or questions regarding the motion on the floor? Hearing none, your voting device is now open. Would anyone like to change their vote? The vote is now closed, and the motion carries. And like Catherine said, we want to thank all of those contributors for their donations to the district. I do want to remind the board that this Wednesday night is our meeting, special meeting at 5:15 to interview candidates for the open seat that we currently have on the board. So write that down.
Do you think I can participate remotely? Theoretically, I'm supposed to go to soccer. I was supposed to go tonight too, but my kid bailed out, so who knows what it'll do on Wednesday.
I don't have a problem with you, since you've got a reason to be out, to participate remotely. It's an open session anyway, it's not closed. Thank you. All right. Item number 6, closed session. Letter A is consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.851 of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering C, employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. And letter B, consideration of a motion to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the Board of Education has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, including the performance evaluation for the district administrator. I would be looking for a motion, please. Motion has been made by Catherine. Is there a second for this motion?
Second.
Second is made by Jill. Deanna, could we have a roll call, please?
Dr. Bardo,
Yes.
Bobby Braun, Jill Maddick Nelson,
Yes.
Kristen Mattmiller.
Yes.
Catherine Solon,
Yes.
Abby Maddick,
Yes.
J.D. Schrader,
Yes.
Danny Pyatt.
Yes, we are now in closed session.